This is Optimal Startup Daily, episode 820. 3 Ways to Beat Executive Dysfunction and Boost Productivity, Part 2, by the NeuroGym team of myneurogym.com. And I am your narrator. My name is Dan, and I'm with you every single day, reading to you from these great blogs on entrepreneurship to help you improve your business life. Now, today's post is actually part 2, a continuation of a longer post that I started yesterday. So if you haven't listened to the first half yet, I would recommend going back and doing that first. That's episode 819 from yesterday. But if you're all caught up, let's get right to part 2 and continue optimizing your life. 3 Ways to Beat Executive Dysfunction and Boost Productivity, Part 2, by the NeuroGym team of myneurogym.com. 1. Be realistic. You wouldn't try to bench press 200 pounds on your first day at the gym, would you? Of course not. Common sense says to start at a lower weight and gradually build up as your muscles develop. So why should productivity be any different? A lot of people decide that this is the day they're going to change. After years of bad habits, they're going to wake up tomorrow morning, eat breakfast, stay focused at work, finish every task on their list, cook, clean, and go to bed early. Unfortunately, it rarely works out that way. If you try to change everything all at once, you're fighting against hundreds of bad habits instead of just a few. Therefore, when you decide to make a change, set realistic expectations about how much you can change and how fast. Always start small. For example, instead of giving yourself a lengthy to-do list for the week, select a small number of tasks to get done each day and add more once you become more confident. It also helps to have a timeline. Instead of saying, I will send that important email today, try, I will send that important email at 11 a.m. Just be sure to schedule yourself enough time to do everything and don't plan out your entire day, especially if you're not used to that. Once again, small steps are key. 2. Take it step by step. If you cope with executive dysfunction, you know all about getting overwhelmed by important tasks that take a long time, require a ton of mental effort, and have multiple steps. You've probably also procrastinated on this kind of task by doing smaller tasks you found easier. You can probably see where we're going with this. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try separating a big task into several smaller tasks that feel more manageable. For example, imagine you have an important form to fill out. To do this, you need to gather the documents that have the needed information, print out the form, fill it out, then bring it to the post office to mail it. Instead of putting "fill out Form X" on your to-do list, you would treat each of these steps as a separate task. Remember to schedule adequate breaks while you're getting things done too. If you like, you can even give yourself a small incentive for getting through each step. Some examples of incentives for completing a step are 10 minutes of your favorite show, a walk around the block with music, or even a piece of candy. Some balk at these methods. It can feel strange to reward yourself with a treat like you would a pet, but others swear by them. If you need more inspiration, support groups for people with ADHD are full of ideas. Lastly, remember that you can also break down lengthy single-step tasks this way. Instead of reading a 20-page document as one task, try reading 5 pages at a time. The task will feel much less daunting, and you'll be less tempted to give in to distractions if you get a short break or reward between steps. And 3, eliminate distractions. Procrastination's partner in crime is distraction, and you'll hardly ever encounter one without the other. Everyone gets distracted sometimes, but for people with executive dysfunction, distractions can really cut into the workday. Having a clear timeline can help prevent you from getting distracted. When it's time to make that important phone call or finish that paperwork, it's not time to do anything else, productive or not. However, sticking to a schedule can be hard for those with executive dysfunction. So to stay on task and avoid distraction, you might need a more proactive approach. Let's say you have something important to do and it's due today. But Netflix just released a new show. There's a bunch of dishes in the sink, the weather is perfect for a walk, and you really should make an appointment for a tire change. When you have time, make a list of the things you're usually doing while you procrastinate. Then have a look around the room you work in. Can you see anything on the list? You probably can. Look for ways to remove your distractions. Here are some possibilities. You can use any of these or others depending on what you find distracting. Turn your desk around so your back is to the window. Block social media and streaming websites from your browser while you work. Have a dedicated drawer in which to hide things associated with your hobbies when needed. Use headphones or run a fan if the distractions are audible. Let friends and family know your work hours so they know not to message you during that time. Or choose clothing, hair, and makeup styles that are comfortable and don't require touch-ups during the day. But don't forget the biggest distraction of all, your smartphone. You can turn off your phone or put it out of sight, but for some people, this doesn't cut it. The habit is so strong that they need to put their phone in another room while they work, or even in a lockbox with a timer. Experiment a little and see if there's a method of hiding your phone that works for you. Final thoughts. Executive dysfunction isn't a personal failing, a crippling barrier, or a death sentence to your career. It's frustrating when things pile up despite your best efforts. But luckily, you have the power to overcome these difficulties. Your full potential is within reach. For most, executive dysfunction is the result of bad habits and can be overcome by workarounds like breaking down tasks or blocking distracting websites from your browser. This kind of intervention should be tried first. However, if it turns out you need medication to manage ADHD or another issue, there's no shame in that. Remember not to give up. You probably won't find your ideal management strategy right away, and even when you do, it takes time to turn that strategy into a habit. If you slip up on occasion, it doesn't mean you're doomed to fail. Just get back on the wagon or find another strategy you like better. People who struggle in this area often also struggle with their self-esteem. It can be demoralizing to constantly find yourself overwhelmed by a to-do list or to be reprimanded by a boss or teacher for being late or disorganized when you're really trying. Therefore, it's also important to be kind to yourself. If you had a friend who struggled with executive dysfunction, would you tell them they were stupid, lazy, or not cut out for success if they were late finishing a task or got overwhelmed? Surely not. So why would you say these things to yourself? Finally, don't forget to celebrate successes, like learning how to overcome the obstacles in your way. Congratulations on taking this first step. Getting to the end of this article is the first of many successes in your future. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled 3 Ways to Beat Executive Dysfunction and Boost Productivity by the NeuroGym team of myneurogym.com. And again, thanks to the NeuroGym team, and you can check out all of their great content, including programs and much more at myneurogym.com. But that wraps up our 2-part episode, and that does it for today here on Optimal Startup Daily. I thank you so much for being here and for clicking subscribe or follow on the podcast app that you use. And I will see you right back here tomorrow for another episode. And that is where your optimal life awaits.